All right, so you know how it is with AI these days.
Yeah.
1 minute, everything is about one thing, and then boom, everyone's talking about something new.
It's true. You really have to keep your finger on the pulse.
Right now, the buzz is all about DeepSeek R2. And yeah, you and everyone else wants to know what's up, but who has time to read through every article and tweet, right?
Absolutely. It's a lot to keep up with.
Exactly. So that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive.
Here to cut through the noise for you.
We've been poring over news reports, anything we could find on DeepSeek and what they've been doing, especially when it comes to R2. We want to break down what makes it a big deal, why people are excited about it, what it might be able to do, the whole picture.
Sort of like an R2 cheat sheet.
Yeah, exactly. And DeepSeek, for those who need a quick recap, they're the Chinese startup behind the R1 model. You remember that one, right?
Oh, yeah. R1 really turned some heads. Especially for those who needed something that was really cost-effective but could still hold its own against the big players.
So we're talking about the next generation of that. All right, so first things first. Let's talk about the timeline for R2, because things have been a little, I don't know.
A little unclear.
Yeah, exactly. A little unclear. Some reports were saying it was launching on March 17th. What's the deal with that?
Well, DeepSeek actually came out and addressed those rumors head on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they used their corporate consulting account to basically say, hold up, March 17th isn't happening.
So no official launch date yet then?
Not yet, and they're also keeping quiet about the specifics of what R2 can actually do.
Okay, but those March 17th rumors had to come from somewhere, right? Like, where did that date even come from?
It seems like it started with some reports coming out of the Chinese media, and then it kind of took on a life of its own on social media, especially on X, all the speculation.
Which I guess shows you just how much people are anticipating R2.
Oh, for sure. There's a lot of hype surrounding this launch.
It wasn't just March 17th floating around out there.
Yeah.
Wasn't there something about May, too?
Yeah, before the March 17th thing blew up, some sources were pointing to May as a possible release date. And there were whispers that DeepSeek was actually trying to push things even faster.
Trying to speed things up.
Yeah, which, tells you they're not messing around. They want to be competitive. And in the AI world, things move fast.
Makes sense. And it's not like they've been sitting on their hands just waiting for R2 to launch.
No, not at all.
What else has DeepSeek been up to lately, just to paint a picture of what they've been doing?
Well, one interesting thing is they just reopened their API.
Okay.
It had been down for a bit. And the timing is interesting because this happened right around when Alibaba previewed their own new AI model.
So maybe some competitive maneuvering going on there?
Maybe. It definitely makes you wonder.
Makes you think.
What else? Okay, so they also did something pretty big. They released 8 open source projects, all aimed at making AI model training more efficient.
Wow, 8? That's a pretty significant move.
It is, and it's not just about them either. This could really benefit the entire AI research community. They've also been offering these big discounts on their API if you use it during off-peak hours.
Interesting strategy.
It's a smart way to bring in more users and make the AI services market more competitive.
Makes sense. Anything else we should know about?
Well, this was a bit of a surprise. For a while, their app was actually the top download on the US iOS App Store.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and that really shows you that they're making their presence known, even in a market dominated by US companies.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's clear they're making moves. But let's talk about what everyone really wants to know, R2 itself. What can we actually expect from it in terms of what it can do?
So from what we've gathered, it looks like R2 is going to be a big step forward, particularly when it comes to coding and multilingual understanding.
Okay, coding, I'm all ears. What kind of improvements are we talking about?
Well, the word is that it'll be much better at generating code, more accurate, better at understanding really complex code, and able to optimize code for all kinds of different programming languages.
That's pretty appealing for any developer.
Right. For developers, this could be a game changer. Think about better code completion suggestions, more accurate and relevant recommendations when you're coding, and way less time spent debugging.
Sounds like a dream. Okay, what about the multilingual part?
This is really interesting, especially in today's global world. The expectation is that R2 will be able to understand and reason in multiple languages, not just translate them.
So what does that mean practically?
Imagine it being able to actually understand context and respond in different languages. That's a huge advantage, especially if you're working with international teams or trying to reach a global audience.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a big deal.
It goes way beyond just translating a basic phrase, Think about understanding legal documents with different cultural nuances across multiple languages.
Right, that's something even most of today's AI struggles with.
Exactly.
Okay, so better coding, true multilingual understanding. What about the tech behind it all? Are they sticking with the same approach as R1?
Most likely, yes. They've been using some really innovative approaches with R1, like mixture of experts, MoE, and multi-head latent attention, MLA, and it's very probable that R2 will build on those.
Can you unpack those for us a little bit? What do they actually mean?
Of course. So MoE is all about efficiency. Think of it like a team of specialists, but instead of having the whole team work on every single problem, only the most relevant experts get called in.
I see.
So it only uses the parts of the model that are actually needed for a specific task. It saves a ton of processing power that way. MLA is more about how the AI manages its memory. It's sort of like a really advanced note-taking system, helping the AI to remember important details without getting bogged down.
So both of these are about making the AI smarter and more efficient.
Exactly. They're crucial for achieving that balance of high performance without needing massive amounts of computing power.
Which makes sense, especially when you're up against companies with tons of resources. There were some rumors about R2 potentially going multimodal. Any truth to that?
There's definitely been talk about it. Multimodal means it would be able to process more than just text, like images, and maybe even audio.
Oh, wow. That would be a big jump.
It would. And if it happens, that would really open up the possibilities for what R2 can do. Being able to understand different types of data like that would make it way more powerful and versatile.
Okay, so potentially better coding, smarter multilingual capabilities, and efficient architecture, and maybe even multimodal. How does all of that translate into actual performance?
The expectation is that R2 is going to be noticeably faster than R1, and it's likely to be a lot better at human-like reasoning, especially in areas like complex programming and advanced math.
So faster and smarter, basically.
Basically, yes. And another thing that's going to help with the reasoning part is that DeepSeek has been expanding their reinforcement learning training data.
What does that mean exactly?
It's like giving R2 a much wider range of experiences to learn from. Think about all the different real-world scenarios and feedback that it gets from that data. It helps it understand context and make better decisions, kind of like how humans learn from experience.
Okay, that makes sense. So where does all this put R2 in the competitive landscape? Who are they going up against?
Well, people think it could be a real challenger to models like Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 3.7, and because DeepSeek is so focused on being cost-effective, they could actually force companies like OpenAI to rethink their pricing.
That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, it could really shake things up. Remember, DeepSeek's R1 was already as good as OpenAI's O1 on reasoning tasks, and it was faster. O1 Pro was still considered a little better at nuanced reasoning, though. But early assessments are saying that R2 could have the same quality output as some of the top models, but at a way lower cost, maybe even 30 to 40% less.
Wow, that's significant.
It is. And it's not just about cheaper AI. It means that smaller companies and research teams who couldn't afford the really expensive models before, well, now they could have access to really advanced AI.
So it could open up a lot of doors.
Exactly. We could see a whole wave of new AI applications because of that.
Okay, so let's imagine all this potential is realized. Where could DeepSeek R2 actually be applied in the real world? What industries would it be a game changer for?
Well, given its strengths, it could be huge in a bunch of different areas. Let's take finance, for example. They've even created a specific version of their model that's been trained on financial data. We could see it being used for everything from identifying market risks to automating audits and generating compliance reports.
Wow, so it could change the way financial institutions operate.
Oh, absolutely. It could also be used for predictive risk assessment, real-time market analysis, improving fraud detection, even automating financial reporting.
That's a pretty big impact on just one industry. What about healthcare?
Healthcare is another area where it could be revolutionary. It could be used to provide better diagnostic support to doctors, speed up medical research by analyzing massive amounts of data, and help develop more personalized treatments for patients.
It's amazing to think about AI playing such a critical role in health.
I know, right? And that's not even all. It could be really important for analyzing medical imaging, helping diagnose those rare diseases, doing deep dives into medical literature, and helping scientists come up with new hypotheses.
Okay, so finance and healthcare. What about the tech world?
Well, given the advances in coding with R2, that's an obvious area. We could see it used to speed up code generation, offer smarter debugging suggestions, and help create more efficient software. It could also automate documentation, generate technical content, optimize existing code, find and fix bugs faster, and even create data processing scripts.
So it's like having a superpowered coding partner.
Pretty much.
We also read about potential applications in legal services, right?
Yeah, they have something called DeepSeek Legal, which is a specialized model for the legal field. It can help review contracts, analyze precedents, and do case law research much faster.
So they're really targeting specific professions with tailored models. That's interesting.
It is. It makes sense to leverage AI for those specific tasks. And speaking of specialized fields, what about research and academia? R2 could really make a difference there too.
Absolutely. It could streamline so many research tasks.
Exactly. Think about developing complex algorithms, processing data, prototyping new research ideas. It could also be incredibly useful for analyzing tons of academic papers, summarizing research findings, helping researchers come up with hypotheses, even helping with scientific modeling.
And finally, what about education? I feel like AI has so much potential to personalize learning.
It does, and R2 could be a real game changer there. It could help create more personalized learning experiences for students, adapt educational content to their progress, provide more effective tutoring, and even help develop better curriculum materials.
Okay, so we're talking about potential impact across finance, healthcare, tech, legal, research, and education. I mean, that's pretty much every major sector. So what's the overall reaction to R2? Is the hype justified?
Well, there's a lot of positive buzz out there. A lot of experts think that R2 could really shake things up in the AI world. Some even think it could be a threat to the big companies that are dominating the market right now.
So a potential disruptor.
Yeah, exactly. DeepSeek's focus on affordability and the fact that R2 is expected to be so much more advanced than R1 has gotten a lot of people excited. There's a sense that it could really change the way AI is developed and used, and hopefully lead to lower prices across the board, which would make AI more accessible to everyone.
That would be great to see. You know, we're interested in what the more technical folks are saying too. What are the AI researchers buzzing about?
There's a lot of discussion in the research community, especially around DeepSeek's open source reasoner models. Some people are saying that these models are performing just as well as OpenAI's O1.
That's pretty impressive.
It is, and there's also a lot of interest in figuring out exactly what R2 can do and how it might help lower the cost of AI tokens, which basically dictates how much it costs to use these services. Some people have even done their own testing and are finding that DeepSeek's models are outperforming more advanced models in certain coding tasks.
So the early results are promising.
They are. And another thing that's getting people excited is that DeepSeek's large language models can be run locally, which gives you more flexibility and can save money.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Huh.
What are some of the concerns that people are raising?
Well, some people are worried about whether DeepSeek's services are as reliable and stable as the bigger companies. Some users have reported problems with timeouts and lack of response when they try to use it with large or complicated documents, which raises questions about whether it can handle those heavy-duty applications.
Right. Reliability is crucial, especially for businesses.
Absolutely. And there have also been some issues with new user registrations lately because of what DeepSeek called large-scale malicious attacks. That raises concerns about their security and stability.
I see. So even with all the excitement, there are some things to be cautious about.
Definitely. DeepSeek is still a relatively young company, and it's going to be interesting to see how they address these challenges.
Okay, let's go back to this idea of cost effectiveness for a moment.
Mhm.
How is DeepSeek able to offer such competitive prices?
Well, their whole strategy has been about building powerful AI that doesn't need a ton of computing power to run.
Right, we talked about that with MOE and MLA.
Exactly. And apparently it costs them way less to train their R1 model compared to what OpenAI spent on O1. That focus on efficiency means they can offer lower prices, which makes AI a lot more accessible for more people and organizations.
So it's not just about being cheaper, it's about making AI more democratic.
Precisely.
And what else gives them a competitive edge?
Well, another big thing is that they're open source, at least with some of their models. That means developers can download them, change them, use them however they want without paying licensing fees.
So it encourages more experimentation and customization.
Exactly. And it's a very different approach from companies that keep their models tightly controlled. They're also smart about targeting specific industries, like finance, healthcare, and legal, with specialized versions of their models. That way, they can potentially offer better accuracy and results compared to more general AI.
Okay, so we've got efficiency, open source, and a focus on specific industries. That sounds like a pretty solid strategy. But what about the challenges? What could hold DeepSeek back?
Well, being based in China, they might run into problems with regulations and geopolitics.
especially with all the tension between the U.S. and China.
Right, especially in places like the US and Europe where the rules around AI are getting tougher.
Hmm.
And there's also the whole thing with the US trying to limit China's access to advanced chips.
So they might struggle to get the latest and greatest hardware.
Yeah, which could put them at a disadvantage against companies that can.
That makes sense. What other challenges do they face?
Well, they're up against some really big, powerful companies like OpenAI and Google who have tons of money and are already very well established. It's going to be tough to compete with that, especially in markets outside of China.
So they have a tough road ahead.
They do. They've done some really impressive things, especially given that they might be using older chips, but that might not be sustainable in the long run. And they also have to deal with people's concerns about data privacy and security, especially with a Chinese company.
That's understandable. People are going to be cautious.
They are, and rightly so. And then there's the whole issue of open source and the potential for misuse. It's great for innovation, but it also means that bad actors could potentially get their hands on this technology.
So building trust and ensuring responsible use is going to be essential for DeepSeek.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to wrap things up for our listeners, what are the key takeaways from all this?
Well, the big thing is that DeepSeek R2 looks really promising. It's expected to be much better at coding and understanding different languages, and it could be way more affordable than some of the other leading models.
Right, all thanks to their efficient design.
Exactly. And it has the potential to change things in a lot of different industries.
Yeah.
But we still don't know when it's actually launching, and DeepSeek has a lot of challenges to overcome.
So a lot of potential, but also a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair assessment.
And for our listeners, all this might seem a bit removed from your everyday lives, but it's really not.
AI is becoming more and more important in every aspect of our lives.
Right, and understanding these developments is essential for staying ahead of the curve, whether it's in your work, your industry, or just your general knowledge of technology.
It's shaping the future, whether we realize it or not.
So think about it. As DeepSeek tries to make advanced AI more accessible with R2, what new possibilities could open up in your field? What kind of disruptions could it cause?
It's definitely something worth pondering.
And here's another thing to consider. Will the future of AI be driven by companies with access to the most advanced hardware?
Or by those who can design the most ingenious and efficient AI architectures.
It's a fascinating question, and only time will tell.
I can't wait to see how it all plays out.
Me too. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll keep you updated as the story of DeepSeek R2 unfolds.